The redistricting wars are underway following the Supreme Court ruling striking down Louisiana's second black majority congressional district in a major blow to the Voting Rights Act. Republican governors in Alabama and Tennessee holding special legislative sessions this week to consider redrawing maps ahead of midterms in an effort to turn their few remaining blue districts red. Meanwhile, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry is facing a barrage of lawsuits over his executive order to suspend the congressional primaries after the Supreme Court's decision. The Trump administration calls the ruling a win.
There is no doubt that the Supreme Court got this decision right. It's the position of the Department of Justice. It's the position of this administration. We argued the case. And so, yes, there is also no doubt that the existing system was not consistent with our Constitution. And that's what the Supreme Court found.
Joining me now, the lead attorney in the Kallis case, Sophia Lynn Lakin, director of the ACLU's Voting Rights Project. Welcome. So glad you are here. Todd Blanche, they're saying that the existing system was not consistent with our Constitution. You certainly argue otherwise. What do you believe the court got wrong here?
Oh, absolutely. The court disregarded decades of precedent, decades of practice, the constitutional language itself, its own decision from 3 years prior in a case called Allen versus Milligan, where it upheld the framework that we have been using for decades to protect voters of color from racially discriminatory maps that we've seen. Now we see legislators across the country taking this as an opportunity to redraw maps, to put voters at risk in order for political gain. And that's what we're seeing right now. A rollback to the time before the Voting Rights Act. And that's a scary thought.
So Justice Samuel Alito, writing for the majority, said this is just an update to the Voting Rights Act because it essentially served its purpose. Black Americans now vote at similar rates to the rest of the electorate. What do you make of his analysis?
I think it's a bit disingenuous, and Justice Kagan, I think, pointed this out in her dissent very powerfully to say this is the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is all but a dead letter. This is a culmination of a deliberate, decades-long conservative legal project. We've got Shelby County, the Brnovich decision from a couple of years ago, and now Calais, to dismantle the Voting Rights Act piece by piece while pretending to leave it intact. The result here is a law that exists on paper but cannot be enforced in the vast majority of cases, and the consequences on voters of color are devastating and already being felt.
So give me a sense of how this decision then impacts local election systems.
I mean, the same rules that apply to your congressional districts all the way down to your local election offices apply. So this decision, which is saying essentially green lighting partisan motivations when it comes to shielding racial discrimination, that can happen not just at Congress, not just at the state legislative level, but all the way down to your school boards, to your local council elections as well.
This week, you have conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, who, of course, prominent proponent of a colorblind constitution. He'll become the second longest serving justice in American history. How does the decision in Louisiana build on the conservative Supreme Court's efforts to ensure race-conscious policies do not endure?
Unfortunately, this is yet another culmination of that particular project of saying, you know, we don't need to consider race. We're at a place where we can have a so-called colorblind legal system, colorblind structure, but that is just blind to the reality that exists today. When you have a disease, you cannot cure it if you ignore the diagnosis. Here we have a long, ugly history of discrimination when it comes to voting and other policies in this country.
Sophia Lynn Lakin, thank you very much for joining us. It's a very important case. Thank you for your time.